previewing another live trial that's beginning next week. The Kept Alive to Torture murder trial. Defendant Sean Finnegan and Rebecca Dishman are charged with murder, kidnapping, and abuse of a corpse. In the death of Jennifer Paxton, Dishman has pleaded guilty, and Finnegan could face the death penalty if found guilty at trial. Prosecutors say that Paxton was brought to an apartment. This was in December of 2019, where Finnegan and Dishman held her against her will and eventually killed her. According to the warrants, Finnegan and Dishman lured her into the residence with the promise of a place to stay.
It's about as disgusting of an allegation as you can come up with. This is one of those trials that's going to be difficult to watch on many levels, but justice for this victim, I think, is really what is pushing the state of Tennessee here. Trial getting underway Monday. Before it begins, let's take a look at some of the background in this Keep Alive to Torture murder trial.
August 5th, 2020, police in Oak Ridge, Tennessee investigate a tip that Sean Finnegan and his girlfriend Rebecca Dishman have a human body stored in their freezer. Local station WATE spoke with one of the neighbors about the day of the police search.
You can see flashing stuff through the windows, a lot coming through.
Inside the home, investigators would find the frozen, decomposing remains of Jennifer Paxton, hidden under a bed. Finnegan had allegedly cleaned out the freezer in an attempt to cover up his crime. His neighbor described Finnegan's arrest.
When they brought him out, he had no expression. He was just there. There was no anger, no sad, no happiness. He was just there and stare, and it was really creepy.
Jennifer Paxton was 36 years old and reportedly homeless when Finnegan and Dishman lured her to their home by offering her a place to stay somewhere between November 1st and December 31st, 2019. According to court documents, Paxton died of strangulation, but there was evidence that she had been beaten with a baseball bat, repeatedly raped, shackled with a dog collar, and denied food and medical treatment before she was killed. One of Sean Finnegan's neighbors told WATE about how he was scared of Finnegan.
He's just, those eyes, I mean, just like a wild animal. And he cursed me, and I said, I don't want anything to do with that guy. And I was afraid of him from then on.
Prosecutors charged Sean Finnegan and Rebecca Dishman with multiple counts, including first-degree murder, kidnapping, and abuse of a corpse, and filed a notice of intent to seek the death penalty. Last September, Rebecca Dishman agreed to a plea deal and was sentenced to life in prison. She's expected to testify against Sean Finnegan.
Still with us, national trial attorney Michael Schaefer. Now we're going to talk about this case, Michael, that's also going to be starting next week. A lot of just horrific details in this one that we'll be expecting to hear a lot about.
Yeah, this case is what I call just not a case, right? Like this guy's going to get sentenced to death, right? Even if he didn't have his co-conspirator testifying against him after having taken a plea where she's going to be spending the rest of her life in prison, even if he didn't have that, just the evidence that already exists in this case, where they found the remains in the freezer cut up in his home, the depravity of it, the blunt force trauma, the constant raping, all of that's death penalty material. But he's going to also have his co-conspirator testifying against him. So this is one of the cases where you're a defense attorney. These are the cases that, you have to, you get a level of experience in coming up with arguments in cases like this that you can't get anywhere else, because as a defense attorney, all you're trying to do is try to find a way to combat the death sentence. That's all you're trying to do. No defense attorney ever wants to be known as the person, the girl or the guy who had a client get sentenced to death. You don't want to be that. That's one of the things in our industry, like, oh, he had a client get put to death. So few people get put to death, right? You don't want to be painted as one of the attorneys who had a client go to the electric chair, right? And so I'm sure his attorneys have reached out to the state and said, look, he'll take a plea, life in prison without the possibility of parole. In his allocution, he'll say what he did. And the state of Tennessee would have said, no, we already have one person, one of the co-conspirators. We gave that deal. That deal's off the table for your person. It was never on the table for your person, but it's definitely not on the table now. So for me, I'm looking for the defense attorney to come in and say he had a horrible life, he had a terrible life, he did this, he did that, he was trying to do good, but the demons came in, they got him, he killed her. Once he killed her, he got scared. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for them to try to get him off or get some sort of a reduced, manslaughter. I'm not looking for any of that. I'm looking for his defense attorneys to lay a foundation and a record so that after he gets convicted, they can convince a jury to not recommend death to the judge. That's what I'm looking for. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, and a tough battle.
And it's out of a horror movie. What is alleged here in this case is the worst, everyone's a father's worst nightmare, a woman's worst nightmare, being kept and raped repeatedly in somebody's home. Two people, the man and the woman.
And then you even heard that man during that story that we just played about how he was afraid of him with his eyes. And
yeah, he's not someone that should be running around ever. And a win here, though, is, Michael, to your point, just avoiding the death penalty. At the end of the day, most cases are tough to get a death sentence on because people you could be death penalty all you want. Once you're in that jury box, though, and you have another person's life in your hand, it's very hard. I always come back to Nicholas Cruz. That jury felt bad on some weird level for Nicholas Cruz. I don't think this guy is going to have that going for him.
Yeah, no, I mean, after he gets convicted, they're going to be looking at mitigating factors and aggravating factors. He qualifies under Tennessee. I think they have 6 aggravating factors, right? He qualifies under all 6 aggravating factors. He even he can't even come in and say, well, I don't have any prior run-ins with the law. He does. He's allegedly occurred a rape of a 3-year-old. He's got baggage, right? He's got no mitigating. This is a death penalty case. This is a death penalty case par excellence. Like, it just straight out of central casting. He's going to get put to, if you don't put this guy to death, who do you put to death in Tennessee?
Right, good point.